The fourth C is collateral. Collateral. For almost any type of bank loan, the bank is going to require that you pledge certain assets towards that loan as collateral. And the simplest example is going back to Laura. She buys the freezer. What's going to be the collateral? It's going to be that piece of equipment. That piece of equipment is going to be your collateral. If it's inventory, then the inventory is going to be the collateral. If it's I want to buy a building, what's going to be the collateral? The building is going to be the collateral. Over time, banks have looked more closely and more carefully at collateral, because during the recession, 2008, 2010, many banks saw loans fail and they had to take back those assets. And they found in many cases, the assets weren't worth nearly what they seemed to be worth at the time the money was being borrowed. While that cooler was worth $100,000 when Laura bought it, when she defaulted on her loan a year later, it was only worth $20,000. And yet she still has a loan for $100,000 to the bank. So the banks will look very carefully at whatever assets you're willing to pledge. And normally, ideally, they'd love to see, if it's a $100,000 loan, $100,000 in collateral. And the best collateral for a bank is you putting up a CD. I don't recommend that, but don't be surprised if you go to the bank to borrow money and they say, well, Margarita, you need $50,000. Why don't you just buy a $50,000 CD here at the bank and we'll use that as collateral? And Margarita's response is, if I had that $50,000, why would I buy your CD, right? I'd use that $50,000 myself. But don't be surprised if the bank suggests that.
And Tim, and so if you had the $50,000 following your example in the bank, but you want to use the bank's money, right? Other people's money, would they use that as collateral?
Only if you're willing to guarantee that that money goes nowhere else, that you're willing to essentially, either somehow keep it in that account at all times or buy a CD. They want to make sure if you're using that cash as collateral, they want to make sure that they've got first rights to it. So the bank will look at the amount of collateral. They will also look at what they call the quality of the collateral, right? So if I'm a restaurant and I'm borrowing money to buy more plates and dishes and chairs and tables, the moment I put any of those into use in my restaurant, the value of that collateral goes down 50% on day one, because now it's a used table, it's a used chair, it's a used fork and spoon, 50 cents on the dollar. Versus some assets maintain their value better over time. So they're going to look at the amount that you're pledging and the quality of that collateral. But again, just expect when you go to borrow money, think ahead of time, what are you willing to offer? And it could be business assets, or it could be a personal asset, could be your house that you're willing to put a second mortgage on as collateral. The fifth C is conditions. Conditions. And again, here we're talking about what's going on outside of your business: economic conditions, market conditions, demographic conditions, industry conditions, personal conditions. They're looking at all the other factors external to your business that either make this loan more attractive or make it less attractive. So again, idea is before you go in to borrow money from the bank, now you know what the 5 C's are. You want to kind of pre-rate yourself on all 5 of these, because these are the 5 factors that banker is going to be using to make their loan decision.